and now I don't know where it went.
Wow.
So
Like an actual on a physical piece of paper?
Yeah, and look, I got like emo hair going on here. I feel like
Yeah, you do. I didn't want to say anything, but I think it looks. I mean, I'm emo, so I think it looks awful, but whatever. I think it looks whatever. Welcome back, everybody, to Elder Elves.
Welcome back.
Where we talk about hair and we tell dirty jokes before you tune in.
Turdy jokes.
Some of them are pretty jokes.
We can also talk about this shirt. This is the Earth Kingdom shirt that I got going on.
That's pretty cool.
Because Avatar, The Last Airbender, they're not paying me for this. Shout out, but it's coming to Netflix, and I'm excited.
And they definitely need our sponsorship to get the word out.
They do. They were like, oh man, how am I going to get this out? I'm like, I got you. I got you.
Don't worry about it, man.
I'll do it for free. I'll do it for free.
But what we are talking about today is Dungeons and Dragons again, going through our sort of like how-to guide, give or take. Last week we talked about what we liked and what we didn't like and how we got started in it. Oh, you know what I do think? Sort of like how we never gave a trigger warning in our last section of playing games. I do feel like we should say we're aware of how problematic Dungeons and Dragons is as a company and Hasbro and all of that.
Yes.
All of that stuff.
Yes.
It's not okay. It's racist and sexist, and they do bad things to their employees because they don't pay them enough, and the company's not run great. We acknowledge all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that the game still can't be fun and you can't use the mechanics to kind of like make your own thing. So just because we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons doesn't mean we condone anything from the past or the present.
Correct.
That they have done.
Also, I will say that I usually only use these books to build characters and to go, oh, that's an interesting concept. And then I build my own world. I'm a home brewer.
Yeah.
I've never used. No. I use them for characters. That's basically it. And monsters.
Now, if you're somebody who has a hard time coming up with a whole universe for your people to play in or whatever, and you need help, there's some really good ideas in there. There's whole storylines in there that you can look at and get ideas from and stuff like that, or use if you really want to. There's some really good modules you can play too. Yeah.
That are,
I've just never done it. I've never actually used the modules in there.
No, I also haven't. I bought modules to run because I had people that wanted to actually play like start to finish a mod.
Yeah.
So I got I have like 2 of them and still haven't run them. I'm like, we're gonna do this, so I haven't done it.
Oh,
which
another
is basically the best thing about D&D is that you can talk about doing it, and then no one can commit because of their schedules.
Yeah, well, it's hard, especially if you're doing something like if you're trying to play a game with north of 4 people, it gets really complicated because everybody has their own life and things going on, and they can't always, not the stars don't always align, as it were.
Right.
Which is totally fine, but for some people it worked out. But that's one thing, because you were talking about certain rules and certain not, and certain stories that you pick up and take and kind of leave and go. One of like the key things in the book, it says all the rules and everything are just guidelines. Like you don't have to stick to it. It's not hard-nosed or anything like that. So this game should be fun. It should just be about like imagination and people sharing a story together. That's the cool part. The cool part isn't if you roll bad, you don't defeat whatever because the difficulty challenge is too high or anything like that.
Hmm.
It should be about everybody having an engaging, fun storyline.
Yeah. And I mean, there are, you do have groups, that want things that maybe you don't. They want to only be combat driven with the tiny sprinkling of role play. And that's okay. Maybe they're not your people, or you run in a group that's mostly like they just want to tell a story, and the combat portion is, if it happens, it does. If it doesn't, it's not a big deal to them. And if that's not your thing, like you need to have a fight every game, or every other game in order to whatever. I know, I'm sorry, my dog is going ham right now.
Yeah, I just think it's funny because it sounds like your dog is having a fight as you're talking about fighting.
Yeah. Oh my God, he rolled high. What's nice about this game is that you're going to find people that have your play style. It might take a little bit. The biggest problem that I see, aside from like all the trigger stuff that we talked about, but all the stuff that for the actual playing of it, that people have a hard time, is that a lot of people don't want to be the game master or dungeon master or storyteller. I like to say storyteller because
that's what
it feels cooler, No one wants to be that role. They want to play in it. They don't want to be the captain of the ship, so to speak. And I get that because it is hard. There's times where I just, I run a game once a month, and there's times where I just want to play. I want to be sitting there playing, doing it, whatever. I used to play every Sunday. I had a group that I played with every Sunday, that I recently stepped back from. And, I miss that. But, I get to be all the characters.
Yeah.
So to speak, and I get to helmet, and it is stressful trying to make sure everybody is having a good time, enjoying it, which is why it's really important that going forward, you guys sit down and make sure you're checking in with each other, because the game is not just the storyteller's game. All right, it is everybody's game. I like to do touch bases with my team after the game and say, hey, what didn't you like? Like what would you like more of in this game? Oh, you know what? I would have liked another fight, or you know what? I think we spent too long role playing. I'm like, please tell me, critique it, because I want it to be an encompassing adventure where we're all having fun and there's no like animosity of like, oh, I would have really liked it if I got the final hit. Okay, well, maybe you guys need to talk to each other then, like, and make sure that, okay, this person's doing the final blow every single game, always getting the heroic, put down. Okay, so talk to this guy over here. So maybe
if you're, I mean, this isn't necessarily talking about like building a character, but
yeah,
it is important to say if you are spearheading a game, or if you're a player looking at someone who's spearheading a game and maybe you're not having fun, like it is really important that as you're writing the game, kind of as you go, if you have that many people at the table, you have that many characters, and just like, look at like an Avengers movie, or look at like a book that has an ensemble cast, or I'm trying to think of like a TV show that did it really well, maybe Lost, right? Because like everybody does Expanse, that's a perfect one. Because everybody deserves their kind of own story and their own like moments to shine and kind of really like lean into who they are and what they do. So it is pretty important to kind of give everybody that feeling of accountability and autonomy. because that'll make the game go a lot further, and that'll make everybody feel way more invested. And yeah, maybe like for one game, 3 out of 4 people don't have as much to do, but that one person feels very validated, and then next week or whatever, the next person kind of has a turn to, and you kind of guys all sort of go and piggyback off each other. It's really, it's literally team building, because a lot of this stuff would do great building office morale, or like any kind of like business team cohesion, or any kind of cohesion, depending, whatever your team is. But it's all about like give and take, and recognizing that everybody has their own different needs and responsibilities. A lot of people do that when you're building the group too. Like, everybody wants to have their own character and do their own thing, but if you have a party full of fighters, that's a different experience than if you have a well-balanced team with magic people and healers and fighters and antagonists and things like that. It's all about balance, I think.
It is. The biggest question, well, not so much question, I guess the biggest thing that people say when I'm like, oh yeah, I play Dungeons & Dragons or whatever, you should play, or you should come and play and sit at a table. I'll run a game for you, whatever. They're always like, well, I'm not, like, I've never played. I don't know where to start. And then they say, I don't know if I'd be good at the imagining thing. And I say, do you read a book?
Yeah.
Have you read books? What are the kind of books that you like? What are your favorite kinds of books? Are you just a straight up, so you only read biographical books? That's it. And but even if you did only that, you're still imagining that person as these, George Washington crossing Delaware. You're still imagining these things. So you can do it. It's just a matter of like how much you get into it, or So
I don't think anybody should feel nervous about playing a game that is that's like this just because it's heavily based on imagination or make believe or creating on the spot. A lot of people say a lot of like what I heard from other people is they could never improvise as another person that much, or like as a character. And it's like, well, I mean, you don't really have to. Like, you can kind of play the character as yourself if you want. Like, you don't have to come up with a completely different person, but if you want to, like, that's the fun part. Like, you can. And a lot of people do it to express themselves. Like, if they feel like they don't really get to be who they want to be, whether that's like a gender identity thing or like a personality identifying thing, they get the chance to express who they actually want to be, which is a whole different like idea behind it, and kind of more like what's a lot of people refer to as like D&D therapy and things like that. But I mean, you shouldn't feel handicapped by the fact that like maybe you aren't as imaginative as the person sitting next to you, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. I mean, right in like the introduction, when you get yourself a player's handbook, it tells you that, yeah, it's make believe, right? But D&D is what is going to give you structure. It's a structured storytelling way.
Yeah.
So there's some people out there that will say, no, Miranda, there is a right way to play D&D, but I don't think so. I think, sure, mechanically, yeah, but I think story-wise, like, I don't think there's a right way or wrong way. Like, if you go into it saying, I'm going to win D&D every time, you may not. It may not be that way. Like,
well, and it's important to note too that like, so Critical Role is a huge business now, and they started by playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then they started streaming it on the interwebs, and
Mhm.
now they're huge, and they have a TV show and everything like that. People give them a hard time about how they play the game and how they don't play it right and how they make
Yeah.
bad calls, or they don't acknowledge all the rules and everything like that. So if you're sitting there worried about how you and 4 or 5 or 6 of your friends are gonna treat each other, then like don't. Or you have different
Yeah.
problems. Because
Yeah.
you shouldn't give a shit about what somebody else thinks. You should just go play the game for yourself and get from it what you can get from it and what you need from it.
Mhm. Exactly. So how do we start the process? Like when we're now sitting down, we found someone, we finagled ourselves a DM.
Yeah, we
We bribed him.
somebody in the
We
basement.
trapped him. Yeah, in a basement. We gave him lots of food. We're like, here's a Dunkin' Donuts card and like 3 pounds of really good coffee or something.
It rolls the
Please.
dice. It rolls the dice.
Please. So you were really nice to this person. You didn't trap them a la Horse and Neverending Story and Mud. They're gonna play. They're really excited to play. What's the next part? Well, the next part is trying to figure out what kind of character you want to play. And if we look at just the player's handbook, because to be honest, since the player's handbook has come out, they have made so many supplements, and they've added races, they've added classes, everything. So in this episode, we're just going to talk about the player handbook. In other episodes, we're going to look at the other books that we have, that I have. I have a bunch of them, and go through them and talk about them, and build a character that way too, so you can see some of the changes. But it wants you to choose a race class. It's like number 1, choose your race. Number 2, your class. Number 3. That's pretty much it, I never go based off of who I want to play. I always, for me, I'm like, what class do I want to play? I always, if I'm in with other people, like I'm in a group, I'm like, what do we have? When I played with,
do it, and I think I think it's very similar.
Yeah, because when we played together, Colin and I played in a very long D&D campaign. That probably would have still been going. If our group, we probably would have stayed together, I think.
I mean,
we all had a lot of stuff go on, and it kind of broke down, became a new
world
campaign.
Came back together.
Yeah.
Everybody started going back to work, things like that.
Yeah.
So basically, like, I would say, yeah, you're right. Like, what do you want to do? Like, do you feel like you want to do magic? Do you want to go and be, like an Aragorn type? Things like that. I think that's really important, because especially if you're doing your first time, you're not going to have like a great parameter of what you don't like. You might have an idea of like what you think you like, and then as you go and play through it, you can kind of decide, oh, magic's too hard. Like my first character was a fighter, because I was nervous about dealing with all the magic and the nuances of the spells and everything like that, so I chose fighter. And then later I multi-classed because I got bored of just hitting things, and so I had him get sexually transmitted magic, and I multi-classed him with a bard, so that I had a few spells, and that was a lot of fun. But if you want to hit stuff, be a barbarian. If you want to be a noble kind of fighter type, be a fighter. If you want to be a wizard, that's great. Sorcerers are more like natural magic users. Is that sort of a good
It's like
description of that?
a wizard would be like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And sorcerer would be like
Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah, Doctor Strange. That's a good. I was trying to think of all the like magical.
Yeah.
But yeah, wizard is,
Sorcerer sort of comes in.
You're going to get a book. Yeah. Sorcerer, it's a bloodline thing. It could be any sort of thing like that. Wizard, you are reading, you're a nerd.
Yes.
But big nerdy book person.
I got excited because I was like, I think druid is kind of an underused character class, especially for like people who want to do magic but don't want to be wizards, because like a druid is all nature bound, and I think that's a fun place to go if you want to do magic and things like that. And then like I'm just kind of looking at them right now, but like an artificer. Oh yeah, warlock's fun if you want to make a pact with a devil or a demon or
or like a noodle god, like a god with noodly arms, like the great old one. Something. There's some really cool elements. Like I played a warlock once. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it, and I wasn't building. I don't know. I don't build characters in the like min max or whatever capacity, because people will be like, oh, those min maxers. I build them for story, like what makes sense story wise. My character that I played with, Colin, Shale, she was a ranger, but then I multi-classed into fighter, and then I took a level of cleric. So she was, I multi-classed 3 times, and I was one-shotting people with my,
you were crazy
like,
at that point. You were,
and I was a low level, and I was just like, so what I did is I recognized that I could take, like we called it rule of shale. They were doubling the hit points when we're in fights and stuff. So what I would do is I just stay, as a player, I knew that my character was heavy hitting at that point. So I would just stay back and I'd pick off the little guys.
Yeah.
So that way, and maybe take one shot at the baddie to bring down their HP, so everybody else would get in and fight the big bad and win it. And so I always felt like, oh, well, I'm just doing the cleanup, I just want to protect my friends, do the cleanup. I didn't care if I got the like last shot or any of that. I just wanted to make sure no one went down significantly.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of the stuff that you have to think about. Do I want a character that's like, what kind of style of character? And so when I built my warlock, I was like, it's going to be interesting. Took my warlock and I was like, wow, I got hit. I never got hit and died in the first game I played. Second game I played, I died in the first like big battle, like boom, down. I didn't, you have to roll for death, and I was down to my last roll before I got picked up. I was like, oh my God.
When I was playing Gawain, my monk, like monks are insane when you get to higher levels, but like the first game I went unconscious because I was trying to do cool stuff, and I basically knocked myself out.
You did. It was amazing. Yeah.
It was fun to just sort of always throw yourself. I guess that's one thing. Make sure if you're picking a class, like if you want to throw yourself into the middle of the battle, maybe be a barbarian. Don't be something a little bit more agile, because a barbarian's gonna be able to take more hits than a wizard or a paladin. Well, actually, sorry, not like wizard or
wizard. Definitely do not throw yourself in the battle when you're a wizard. Then you will get your it's like a whole thing. Artificer. There are so many different character
Artificer's
classes. So
another one that I think's awesome and really
Yeah.
underused. Because they're like
Yep.
tinkerers and like magic builders and things like that. Like they're really cool, and I don't see them a whole
Mhm.
lot. You know, everybody
Mm-mm.
wants to be like the brave fighter or the wise wizard and things like that. And there's a lot of like really cool classes that you can make really interesting characters with, outside of that
Yeah.
that people sort of like skim over a little bit.
hmm And a lot of people sleep on cleric because they think that you have to be like this like holy person, but you don't have to. Not with the updates and stuff. You don't have to be some sort of priestly person. As a cleric, you could just be like a regular old healer. I wanted to play a. They have these little creatures called kobolds, and I wanted to play a kobold cleric.
That's fun.
That was actually a dentist and went on this big adventure because he was hired. I should say, they were. They saw an ad for like looking for like medical experience, and so that's why they joined, because they were like, oh, but they can't like they can't really write very well, so like everything is like backwards R's and you know.
That's funny.
You
So how
know.
about this? Since we're running up on half an hour, let's since you've got second edition and I've never used anything else, I'll make for next time, let's start making a character. I'll make a
Okay.
5th edition one. You make
Okay.
a 2nd edition one.
All right.
That might be fun. That might be fun for people who know the game but haven't like gone that far back.
Yeah, and we can build it in the same class, maybe. See what the differences
Oh,
are.
do you want to do that? Yeah, we can do that.
Like we can choose a class, and why don't we? Oh my God, this job.
I know. What's up? You're being like bombarded today. Yeah,
I
let's.
know
so
he's crazy.
Let's do that. Let's build it in the same class. We'll figure out all the details offline. And then we'll
Yeah.
come back next Tuesday and kind of share like
Mhm.
with the peoples who are listening and watching us. See what we got.
Yeah, I
Sound
think that sounds fun to me. Does it sound fun to you, everyone?
Hey, do
I
that
think they
thing where you
said
leave it in
yes.
the comments below. Leave it in the comments so the algorithm likes us more. And then, you know, all the other stuff that people say when they stream and post videos. One thing
Yes.
you should do is like and subscribe us. I know that much. You can find us all over the internet at the Elder Elves. That's Elves, ELFS, by the way. Not spelled correctly. We are aware of that. We thought it was funny. I like it. My name's
It was
Colin
hilarious.
Carlton. You can find me social media, Colin Carlton VO, all over, or colincarlton.com. Your obscure abrasion.
'Tis I, Obscure Abrasion. You can find me on all the social things that way. And if you can't, well, I don't know. If you put my handle into Google, I found myself pretty quick. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that says.
It's Google. I'm pretty easy on Google. There's a Colin Carlton in Hamilton, Canada. No relation. Don't know what that guy does. I'm sure he's very nice. There might be another one, but otherwise, you pretty much just find me.
Where else can we find you right now, Colin?
Oh, you know, if you want, there's a series on YouTube called Domain: The Battle of Two Rifts. That is, the final episodes of this season has definitely probably come out by now, but it's a great story. I do some voiceover work in that. They're really cool people. They are Canadian, just as a little side note. But Shady Online spelled with a number 1, is where you can go find that on YouTube. Domain Battle of Two Rifts. So yeah, go find me there. I voice Torch. That's fun. Thanks for bringing that up. I always forget to like kind of promote the things that I'm in. That was nice of you.
You're welcome, buddy.
Awesome possum. Okay, everybody. See you next